You said about Colin Ferguson, the man who shot a Jamaican a black male who shot 6 people on the Long Island train. Mr. Muhammad speaks.
Well, they set black inmates up in these jails and penitentiaries, and in particular there in Nassau County, and pulled all the black officers out and the black inmates so they could jump on brother Colin Ferguson, because they were mad with him for catching the Long Island train and killing all them white folks. I love Colin Ferguson. I have no official position, so I can say I love him.
You love a man who randomly killed 6 people on a commuter train?
I love Colin Ferguson just as much as the masses of white Americans love General Schwarzkopf, General Westmoreland, General Patton, General MacArthur, and Eisenhower. America awards her killers, and they get ribbons and stripes and bars. I'm sensitive to the pain and suffering of the loss of life on that train, but I'm one of the rebellious slaves. And so when black people stand up out of pain and suffering and frustration, I understand after 500 years.
You also, you said about South Africa, we give him, that is to say white people, 24 hours to get out of town by sundown. That's all. If he won't get out of town by sundown, we'll kill every white that ain't right that's in sight in South Africa. We kill the women, we kill the children, we kill the babies, we kill the blind, we kill the cripple, we kill them all. We kill the faggot, we kill the lesbian, we kill them all. You say, why kill the babies in South Africa? Because they're going to grow up and oppress our babies, so we kill the babies. Are you seriously presenting yourself as a man interested in the future of your people with this kind of rhetoric?
I'm just as interested in the freedom of my people as I am in the self-determination of the Kujichagulia, self-development, them being self-defining, self-respecting, and self-defending. If the white man has killed millions of our people, and you cannot deny the undeniable and indisputable and irrefutable truth, fact, proof, and history of their bloodshed there in South Africa, I said it would be merciful if they would leave. I don't agree with a government, a sham government. No man walks out of prison after 27 years and becomes the president unless there's a script and a plan behind the scenes to remove the economic sanctions from whites in South Africa, but no real plan for redistribution of the wealth. The Oppenheimers, the De Beers, and others there sucking the blood of our people. So I said, be merciful. Give them a period of time. Truman gave the Japanese a period of time, but when they didn't comply, he dropped the bomb on men, women, children, and babies. I make no apology for that statement. I believe that the invasion of South Africa was an act of unprovoked war, one nation against another nation, and nations must fight for the self-determination. They had no business there, Mr. Donahue.
Yes.
There.
Mm-hmm. Your comments appear to bespeak a political position in which you have no interest at all in reaching out and hoping and working for a multiracial community of harmony and peace. Am I correct in saying you have forsaken that idea?
My arms are tired, Phil. We've reached out for 500 years.
Too late now.
We faced tanks. We faced water hoses and cattle prods. Vicious dogs bit the breast of black women off in those protest marches of the civil rights movement. Vicious four-legged dogs sicked on us by two-legged dogs, bit into the groin and the private parts of black men, women, and children. So, Mr. Donahue, I believe that the white man is absolutely disagreeable to live with in peace, and that no one has been able to get along with him nowhere on the face 196,940,000 square miles of the planet Earth.
And so you will continue this rhetoric. You will continue
And action.
and action. Action. What kind of action? Strategy to affect what in the United States of America? Let's start with
Well,
us.
no wise general sits with a representative of the opposition to discuss battle strategy and battle plans before the entire world. I don't think that would be wise.
If it is true that I don't want to give you time to explain the etymology of these words, it is also true that you apparently don't want to respond to my question regarding the loved ones of two Jews who lost their lives to stop the diaspora of the black people.
I don't know.
Do you have any?
I don't know why they were there, and you don't know why they were there. But
Really?
I must say this.
So you're wondering whether they were there for your people.
I'm not wondering at all about them.
What
I'm concerned with the suffering and the pain of the masses of black people. No one wants to pay reparations. The Jews received over $100 billion in reparations and gets $4 billion annually. A Holocaust museum was set up for them on this soil for over $200 million, and they get $21 million annually just for operating expenses. But the Catholic Church, the Pope, the Jews, the Arabs, white people in general, no one wants to pay reparations to these, the sons and daughters of Africa. So I speak to them. I don't speak. I speak to them. I don't speak to the family of those two Jews. There are too many of us for me to speak to them.
You don't want to take any time to make any particular
We've given
statement.
all the time we've been in America. Now it's time we do something for ourselves.
The
We are the same people, Phil, that when you beat us and rearrange our eyeballs in the socket and rearrange our face and beat us and stomp us before the world, we're the same people that get up because God just made us with tender and sensitive hearts as his chosen people and say, well, can't we just get along?
The United vote by the House of Representatives on the matter of condemning Mr. Muhammad was 361 yea, 34 nay. You have, sir, been condemned by the United States House of Representatives. I assume you are flattered by that action.
I believe that my ancestors, I believe that the blood that cries out from the grave of my ancestors who went to an untimely death at the hands of the white wicked slave traders, I believe that they cry out, their spirit is around me and their spirit emanates from me. And I believe that as a righteous man of God, but as a freedom fighter and a revolutionary, it is one of the greatest honors that could be paid.
And we'll be back.
Adolf Hitler perpetrated the Holocaust on 11 million people that died, 6 million of which were Jews, 5 million were others. Am I to understand that you would very much support his way of doing things, and him for that matter?
Sir, this is not reverse racism nor discrimination that you could tie into your statement on Hitler. If the slave master is whipping the slave and blood is running down the slave's back, and the slats, incidentally, where the term cracker comes from the cracker man who was had the crack of the whip on the slave's back. But if the slave takes the slave master's whip from him and starts whipping the slave master with his own whip, that is not reverse racism, that is not reverse discrimination, that is the slave getting out from under the yoke of bondage and oppression. I don't advocate what Hitler has done before the world. Hitler's struggle. I went to the Holocaust Memorial Museum and I tried to separate Hitler as a freak of nature from the rest of white people. But after all that we have gone through, I know that there's a little bit of Hitler in all white people and a lot of Hitler.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
What I'm hearing, we went to war in World War II to fight for the freedom of speech. We didn't fight for freedom of speech of hatred. Many of our members, I'm the National Commander of Jewish War Veterans, and over 50,000 of our men died. They're fighting for your right to free speech here now. I don't understand why you come out with such hatred.
Phil, excuse me, Phil.
Mr. Muhammad. Sir.
You make me sick to my stomach with that. Because at the same time that you were fighting, you were not fighting for the freedom and independence of black people. Soldiers, black soldiers in segregated companies lost their lives on foreign soil there, but would have to come back and fight just to get a bite to eat and not have to go to the toilet on the side of the road somewhere in the bushes. So you're nothing but hypocrites, and you won't pull that small-time stuff over on me.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't we talk about how the merchant Jews come into our black neighborhoods and they suck the life and the money out of our neighborhoods and put it back into their neighborhoods?
Briefly, sir. Briefly.
First of all, I'd like to say peace to all the gods and earths and all the people that came here to represent. Brother Khalid is definitely a true warrior in the cause of black struggle. What I'd like to say as a young black youth is that I feel that America has subjected me to a Holocaust. You understand? From all my ancestors all the way back to even right now, Rodney King, the brother in Staten Island, all we've been subject to is death and destruction here. And as far as Jewish people in the Bible, it say that ye are of the synagogue of Satan. And I'd like to ask you people, why do you feel that you have cornered the market on sympathy? And why can't you feel the pain of the black Holocaust? Why do you think that when we say the black Holocaust, that it's some blasphemous statement? I'd like for y'all to address that.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live on the forecast. Peace to all the guys in the earth, my brothers, sisters. What's going on, Erica, Brandon, Master Supremacy? And I'll put the link in the chat if y'all want to, but this show is just really just black history stuff, just some stuff that I seen, some interesting stories that I do want to read, and I want everybody to kind of get the gist of it. So I'm gonna read a couple things, but I'm gonna also just show a couple and talk about a couple black history things, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, I'm gonna put the link in the chat if y'all do want to come on and talk about stuff. But I ain't really got no other topic or nothing. So I'm just gonna be reading a couple of things for y'all that I wanted people to, I think people should hear. So and definitely shout out to my brothers earlier for their show. They definitely had a good show. All right, so hold on. Let me put the link in the chat, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and get into it and do a couple of screen shares. My fault for the long intro, but it is what it is. So first, like I always say, all right, hold on one second, y'all. But yeah, like I always say, make sure y'all subscribe to the backup channel, the Forecast Radio 24, just in case they give my channel a strike. They could do it at any time. They like to give me strikes at any time. And tomorrow we definitely come in at earlier in the day, maybe around 1 o'clock. Hopefully I'm gonna have my brother Ben coming on. We're gonna have the tech show. He's gonna talk about his website and other things that's going on in the black tech world. And I seen some interesting stuff that I definitely want to ask him. And there's what's up, Rasheed Holmes? And it's an interesting it's gonna be an interesting show, you know what I'm saying? So I know now everybody want to talk about tech, you know what I'm saying, and other things that's essential to our growth, you know what I'm saying, like the stuff that we need. So I want to see what this brother got going on with his website. How can people help him out? You know what I'm saying? How can we build it so that we can transfer off of somebody else's platform, so somebody can't be like, oh, you're using the white man's platform, you know. No, we're using our own stuff. So that's the kind of movement we trying to create, you know, and that's the kind of thing that we on. So definitely make sure y'all subscribe to the other channel. Make sure y'all tune in to the show tomorrow. Hopefully we can start about 1 o'clock, and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna hit the brother up. Because, you know, I ain't gonna lie, like, you know, I am getting tired of being shadow man. And I know my videos is really supposed to be like 1 point, or like, you know, like 1.2K, you know, per view, but I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But once we get off of these platforms, I mean, I guess I can't just be on here saying this Polish kike bitch and expect them to put it up there, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into some Black history stuff, you know what I'm saying? I might start adding this into more of the shows, but tonight I definitely want to read a couple of stories that was interesting, you know what I'm saying, that I knew a lot of Black people didn't hear about. And you know what I'm saying, some of them will be sad, some of them will be good, you know, especially things that we need to talk about when it's fighting back. So first let's start off with something positive, you know. So let me see who I want to share. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure how many of y'all know who Mary Church Terrell is. And, you know, this sister has put in a lot of work, you know. And I was telling y'all about the National Association of Colored Women, you know what I'm saying? And they decided to elect Mary Church Terrell as their first president. Now, this organization was founded in Washington, D.C. by women like Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells, Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin, and Mary Church Terrell. Now, Mary was born to 2 biracial parents, so, you know, I guess she looks like real light-skinned, but at the time, you know, I don't know what's going on with that. So, but some say her mother was the first Black woman to successfully maintain a hair salon in America. Now, Mary Church Terrell's husband, Robert Herbert Terrell, was a lawyer and the first Black municipal court judge in D.C. So he was a lawyer and the first Black municipal court judge in Washington, D.C. So hold on, let's try to see what this brother. All right, yeah, salute, my brother. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. All right, Robert Herberton Terrell. All right. Now, this brother, Judge Robert H. Tyrell, the first African-American judge in Washington, D.C., was born in Charlottesville, Virginia in 1857. He grew up in a middle-class family and stuff like that. When he met Mary Church, she used to be a teacher in there, and that's how they met in D.C. or whatever. And their daughter is a prominent, you know, person. So he allowed himself with Booker T. Washington in the first decade, you know, well, he allowed himself with Booker T. Washington. And, you know, he served as a judge until his death. So, you know, just wanted to share that with that brother. But anyway, you know, the National Association of Colored Women's main focus was on rights and protections for Black people and the right to vote for Black women. Now, unlike feminists, they focused on justice for the entire community. They spoke out against literacy tests and poll taxes that made it impossible to vote. And they were excluded from the National American Women's Suffrage, or white feminist bitches. and black women were excluded, so they had to create their own events. So let me show you Mariacha Terrell. All right. So this is Mariacha Terrell, the first African American woman to earn a college degree and became known as a national activist for civil rights and suffrage. So, you know, Mariacha Terrell was involved in a lot of stuff. And in the organization with Ida B. Wells and Harriet Tubman, they you know, elected her as the president of it. So okay, yeah, another one that I started showing the other day. So in New York, the White Rose Industrial Association was founded by two black women named Victoria Early Matthew and Mariacha Raymond Lyons. The White Rose mission helped black women and girls migrate from South by offering aid to women who were stranded at the railroad station and docks. Now, this is in 1819, where people are actually going out there doing stuff, helping people find places to live, you know what I'm saying, offering them aid. They provided them with safe houses, education, job opportunities, and domestic training. Now, I'm sorry if I'm butchering her name, but Mariacha Lyons was also the second black woman to serve as an assistant principal in the Brooklyn School District. She created one of the first women's rights and racial justice organizations in America. And her group, the Women's Loyal Union, they helped Ida B. Wells fund her book, The Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in All Its Phases. So there you have it. It was black women working together at the time. You understand? So, yo, what's up, Ben?
Nothing much.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going through some history stuff. Yo, you still trying to do the show tomorrow, right?
Yeah, noon.
Noon.
Noon Eastern.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna set the show up after I get off here. So yeah, definitely make sure y'all do that, because we're gonna be talking about the black tech stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I know y'all might not be interested.
We'll put up donations, cash apps, everything, so we can keep it building.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We're gonna find out everything that's going on and how people can help you, you know what I'm saying, build your platform, you know.
Yeah, I think one of the things is what you're doing tonight. History, donations will help us. I think awareness, it's gonna help a lot. So that's all I have to say there. Are you still there? Weather forecast?
Oh yeah, damn, my bad. I was on mute. I'm sorry. So yeah, definitely, my brother. And you can stay on, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to show us a couple of positive things in black history that I definitely wanted to show people and I was just gonna read a couple stories, and if you want to stay on and comment on this stuff, then you know what I'm saying, that's what's up.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So I'm gonna share the screen for I'll show the woman I was just talking about. But after this, I'm gonna go ahead and read the stories or whatever. So this is the sister Mariacha Lyons. You know, there she go. And she was a teacher and of course an activist. And she was denied entry into a high school because of her race. And her family tried to fight it or whatever, but that ended up leading her get into doing missionary stuff, and she helped create the White Mission Rose, which helped black women, you know what I'm saying, especially from the West Indies and during the Great Migration from the South. She helped these women get jobs, you know what I'm saying, find places to live, gave them training on how to be ladies and stuff, all the stuff that we be saying we desperately need. Like, I just want to show how all this stuff existed 100 years ago. Like, really, they was in a better situation than we are right now with all of the stuff that we have. And so let me show this brother right here, because he's going to come up in the story. And I'm not sure how many people have heard of this brother, Henry McNeil Turner. Now, he was a early quote unquote Pan-Africanist. He talked about self-defense. He talked about arming yourself, you know what I'm saying, and defending yourself from the KKK and from racist institutions. And nobody really knows this brother name, Henry McNeil Turner. But he was a black nationalist. They call it a repatriationist before they called it Pan-Africanist. So he was born to free black parents in 1834. He was self-taught by the age of 15, you know what I'm saying? But he still had to work as a janitor at a law firm. So this is kind of how he was trying to work his way up, you know what I'm saying? So he got into church, and this is the thing, they used church and all of this stuff as a weapon, you know what I'm saying? Not to say they didn't practice whatever they believed, but they used it to meet with each other and discuss strategies on how to fight back or to stop the violence somehow, because they had to, you know what I'm saying? So he was appointed postmaster, but was forced to resign because of local Democrats, and we're gonna see some of that stuff and how it went down real quick. So this is what leads up to the story I'm about to read. But in the late 1870s, Turner became increasingly disillusioned with the inability of African Americans to achieve social justice in America. Kind of like 2021, he proposed immigration back to Africa, and an idea much discussed in antebellum period, but which all but disappeared during the Civil War and Reconstruction. He said he organized 2 ship voyages to Liberia, which carried 500 people there. Okay. So yeah, this brother did a lot of stuff, but he also talked about, you know what I'm saying, arming yourself and defending yourself. So what do you think about that, my brother?
I think that is great, and that's a great idea. Defending yourself. I talk about the Second Amendment and self defense, because that's the only way that you never hear that any of and he's a fellow slave too. He's a um American descendant of slaves, and he already had a strong thinking of Pan Africanism. That's something you never hear about. So very important is that the guy did a lot, but see, even he was part of the church. He was more influential to making progress than today's pastors that are nothing but pimps and hoes screwing you over. That's all they have to do. So now he yelled the mic again.
Okay, yes, he was. And that's the thing. A lot of people at that time was Christians, you know, or some form of denomination of it. It was a lot of black denominations of Christian stuff going on at that time, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people, you know, joined certain religious movements, but the key is they use those stuff they use church as a way to meet with each other, to form a community, to talk about how to defend themselves, and most importantly, they didn't shy away from bringing their pistols to church, you know what I'm saying? But we don't know about this, so that's why I wanted to show you a couple of things, because before I even get into the story, so I'm gonna read a couple stories and I'm gonna come back to about this time. So all right, I'm gonna read y'all a story or whatever, and really this is about the Wilmington, what happened in Wilmington. And it's not trying to show y'all like destruction or whatever, but I want y'all to see like how the city was, you know what I'm saying? Like they had a black city, but even then, you know, they had that kind of Christian thing, and even black towns were multiracial. So I'm gonna read this. Cities like Wilmington, North Carolina was 55% black. Instead of fighting segregation, black people made it work for them. By 1897, more than 1,000 black residents owned property and many became wealthy. Wilmington was one of the only cities left with an elected black official. They created their own schools and made up most of the workforce. But white residents were angry. Former slaves were able to build a successful economy. Poor whites also had trouble competing for jobs with more skilled black workers. Often banks charged black residents higher interest rates of nearly 15% compared to 7.5% for white residents. Many black people distrusted the bank because they feared they'd go into debt and be re-enslaved. Lenders refused to let black residents pay off their mortgages or loans in installments. It allowed lenders to take over their property, businesses, and homes. Although the black community had an economic and political power to defend themselves, several homes and businesses of successful black residents were destroyed. Many people also lost their savings after the Freedmen Bank closed. Some white residents argued that Negroes were unsuccessful regardless of political power because they couldn't save money. One writer for the Washington Post said, while numerically strong, the Negro is not a factor in the development of the city. With 30 years of freedom and absolute equality in education as whites, there is not a single Negro or educational or charitable institution. He also said the Negro in North Carolina is thriftless, improvident, doesn't accumulate money, and is not a desired citizen. Even the Republican governor, and by the way, Republican back then was a Democrat today. So I'm gonna say it says Republican governor, but let's just say even the Democratic governor, Daniel L. Russell, said Negroes in North Carolina had as fair a chance as any other state. It said Negroes in North Carolina had as fair a chance as any other southern state, yet they only own 8 million in property after 30 years of opportunity. Russell also said, although they started with nothing, they had enormous advantages over whites, being more skilled workers, accustomed to labor and hardships. Essentially, black people were improving too fast for poor whites, but not fast enough for affluent whites. Wilmington was the only city run by a biracial government. Many white residents feared the city would be ruled by Negroes. White elected officials worked with the owner of the News and Observer newspaper, Josephus Daniels, to spread false propaganda. They ran articles calling Negroes insolent and said they were disrespectful to white residents. They called black officials corrupt and unjust and claimed white women were in danger of being assaulted by black men lusting after them. They repeatedly said, if we don't stop the Negroes from gaining power and put them back in their place, white women and children will be in danger. White women also spoke out in favor of the lynchings. A prominent white woman's suffrage, Rebecca Vladimir Felton, and remember her name because she come back up in other stories. So Rebecca Vladimir Felton gave a speech about the problem white farmers' wives faced. She said, the biggest threat is the Negro rapists due to the white man's failure to protect them. Felton suggested that white males should resort to vigilante justice and mob rule to protect white women. Other speakers at the event incited the crowd even more by showing images of black men with white women. The owner of the black newspaper, Alexander Manley, wrote an article in the Daily Record in response to the pro-lynch speeches. Alexander said many white women weren't raped by black men, they were willingly sleeping with them. He also said poor white men are careless in protecting their women. Our experience among poor whites shows us that white women secretly meet with colored men as much as white men secretly meet with black women. Alexander's article exposed the sexual exploitation and crimes against black women and challenged the myths of the pure white woman. Over the next few months, Democratic groups like the Red Shirts chastised white males in North Carolina for not lynching Alexander. a senator named Bill Tillman bragged that had the article been published in South Carolina, Alexander would have been lynched immediately. Ben Tillman had a shotgun policy with Negroes. During a 4-day rally, they advocated for punishing race traitors who encouraged black residents to vote. They said black men's disrespect and growing arrogance was only overshadowed by their criminality. Many white residents called for Negroes to be banished as they paraded through black neighborhoods. Black residents tried to arm themselves, but most gun dealers were white. They refused to sell guns or ammunition to Negroes and reported the names of anyone trying to buy them. At the same time, over 400 guns were sold to white residents. During another rally, armed mobs marched through the black neighborhoods again. This time, they opened fire on black homes, schools, and churches. After the attack, the mob was greeted by a crowd of over 1,000. As the election got closer, the violence continued to increase. At night, the white citizens patrol policed the streets and disrupted black gatherings. On the day of the elections, the red shirts blocked every road leading in or out of the city. They opened fire on every black resident who tried to vote. White locals said before they allowed Negroes to stay in office, they killed so many there wouldn't be anyone left to bury them. The Democrats still, and you could say Republicans, Democrats still use voter fraud and stuffed boxes, most likely. After the election, Democrats held a meeting to discuss the white man's Declaration of Independence. They wanted to disenfranchise black voters and demanded that black residents submit. Democrats threatened to lynch Alexander Manley if he didn't shut down his paper and leave within 24 hours. Although Alexander already left town, the next morning, an armed mob of about 500 attacked the black community. They burned down Alexander's office and burned down other offices where black newspapers were printed. After rumors about black groups shooting back started to spread, and it wasn't rumors because black people were shooting back, the mob grew to around 2,000. They marched into the black communities and destroyed businesses, homes, and properties. According to some accounts, they tried to kill every damn nigga in sight, in quotation marks. Most of the black population was forced to leave town and hide in swamps and cemeteries. According to reports, 25 black people were killed. However, the actual number of deaths could be anywhere from 60 to 300. Many bodies were dumped in the river. No one white was ever killed during the massacre, and no one was arrested, according to reports. After the attack, telegraphs were sent to other places telling others to restore power the same way. They said, if every nigga's blood had to be spilled, then so be it. Over 2,000 black residents abandoned their homes and businesses and left Wilmington. The first known use of the term race riot was used in an article about the attack in Wilmington. The article encouraged other places to use the same tactics to restore all white Redeemer governments. Hold on. Yeah, my bad, Bakari. I guess that means you backstage, so I'm not looking. My bad.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my bad.
Ain't
Oh
that
yeah, I was looking at
interesting?
something else. Yeah, you can hear me, right, Ben?
Yup, I can hear it. Let me comment a little bit about that.
Hold on. It's only like this the last like 3 or 4 lines right here.
All right, let me pause up.
Hold on. Let me just say, is the by the end of 1989, the Tuskegee Institute reported 101 lynchings and 85 in 1899. Despite the violence, North Carolina elected the only black member in Congress. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, go ahead.
Ain't that interesting? It's not shocking to me, but it's the same thing. So they're saying blocking black people to vote. It's ain't that your so-called Democrat Party does it to you every day to purging black voters? Remember, Bart Barker, you remember all those people used to support Bernie Sanders,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and all the black voters were all getting ripped off through major Jim Crow rules, today. So this thing is not just this thing. What you saw compared to now is what's different is they were out in your face. Now this is high tech. This is high tech that they do these election rigging towards black people every time because most of the time, like for example, like when Bush stole 2000, there were black people losing their voting rights, and they never got those back when the Democrat Party got back in office. No, they all got that kept in place. And when you speak about these riots, most of these mayors were all Jews. All this Jews ran all the town those towns in Wellington and others around so they can control black people through segregation, which most of you Democrats wrote it to make sure that your segregation stays in place for voting protections. You're the mic again.
All right, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to also show y'all some stuff like cuz it wasn't just like no massacres and stuff like it wasn't rumors about black people shooting back. It was black men arming themselves and shooting back. Now, yeah, they did run into issues like where everybody couldn't necessarily arm themselves, which is an important lesson to learn right now, right? Because it was all white gun dealers, they wouldn't sell them ammunition or none of that. But at the same time, they were like over 400 white people bought guns, you know, and they sold them ammunition, and they also get deputized and get guns and ammunition. So they would pass like red light special stuff laws for like the ban like certain guns that the poorer people, both black and white, could get, and they would just you know, deputize poor white people and give them guns, and that's how they armed them, you know, and tried to make the law not about that. So there were a lot of black people that fought back and you know, armed themselves. And I was just showing you that brother Henry who was talking about it because he saw all of this stuff going down, you know. And so one group that was created to as a form of protection, and let me share this before I go to the next one. All right, let me share my screen. All right, the Citizens Protective League, you know, and I just want, it's not a lot of information on them. It show you the American Protective League, but that's like the white boy thing, you know. But this was black people who armed themselves, you know what I'm saying? And you know, I could read a little bit, but this is like so long, you know what I'm saying? But I just want to show you like because of all the stuff that was going on, this was talking about, you know what I'm saying, riots, you know, I like this was an interesting story right here. The police officer, Robert Thorpe, you know what I'm saying, he tried to say a black woman was a prostitute, and he accused her and grabbed her up right in front of his brother. And the brother, and he was undercover, he didn't even know he was a cop, but it didn't even matter. But they got into a fight and the brother stabbed him or whatever, you know. And so the mobs tried to lynch him and all of this stuff, but the black community formed the Citizens Protective League to arm themselves and defend themselves. So I just wanted to show y'all, you know what I'm saying, there are other stories like this. You know what I mean? And also, you know, and you got something to say about that, Ben?
Not as much. I'm just listening to it, but again, it just proves you why things like we have to be armed, we have to be prepared, we have to be aware. And I think that's what this is the hidden black history that we really don't want to talk about. So the important thing is you need to be consistent about what we're trying to do. So that's why when you hear the Democrats that always, and I'm not a Republican, I don't like either party, but it's just like when you hear especially them that want to take care of your guns, you want to do all this, know who you're giving your knowing when they started denying black people the right to bear arms. That's what they do. Those NRA members don't defend you. And a lot of them, when they first intercept after the Civil War, the NRA was supporting a lot of these provisions along with the Democrats. So you gotta remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. But and that's why it's important that instead of arguing about other people's politics, we realize that we can make our own. And we was in a way harder situation and we did way more that, and I'm not trying to be disparaging. I'm saying it from a point of view like this is something that we can do right now, because our ancestors were in a worse position than we are in, and the things that they did were amazing, and there's nothing stopping us from doing it. So, before I read the other story, I want to show y'all something else positive, so I know a lot of y'all know about Maggie Walker and everything that she did. So let me see here. All right, so in 1899, Maggie Walker took over. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna have to make sure I had it. In 1899, Maggie Walker took over as leader of the Independent Order of St. Luke Fraternal Society. The organization was founded in 1867 by a formerly enslaved woman named Mary Prout. So in 1867, she founded the St. Luke's Fraternal Society in Baltimore. They provided care for the ill and helped people bury their loved ones. When Maggie took over the organization, it was on the verge of collapsing. She turned the Independent Order into one of the most famous black fraternal organizations dedicated to the advancement of Negroes financially and socially. By 1902, Maggie founded the St. Luke Herald in Richmond, Virginia, which was a newspaper. By 1903, she established the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. So she created a bank in 1903. And in 1905, she created the St. Luke Emporium to give black women jobs and offer goods to the community at a cheaper price. So, I definitely wanted to show this sister her some love. And before, let me show the sister that created the organization, Mary Prout. All right, so let me share my screen. I don't know. I don't think it's and I'm sorry if it's boring, y'all, but it is what it is. This shouldn't be boring because we're talking about black people having banks in 1903, and we could do that right now. I'm just showing you a black woman who was able to do that, and we can do that. But so this is the lady who started it. They don't show a picture of her, but she started the St. Luke Fraternal Order in Baltimore. And she taught for over 30 years. And she provided financial aid to the sick and funds to bury the dead. You know what I'm saying? So, and this is Maggie Walker. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure y'all seen her before on y'all Black History projects. But I also want to show y'all, like, in my city, you know what I'm saying, how it used to be. Like, now I want y'all to realize, because I'm going to show y'all, and this now is the hood, but 100 years ago was not the hood.
When I say the word bank, what's the first thing?
And don't worry about all these white people profiting off of our, you know what I'm saying, off of our history and telling our story and stuff like that. But yeah.
Comes into your mind. Maybe you think of a business that helps protect your money. Maybe you think of just the building where that bank is located. Or maybe you even think of a bank executive dressed in fine clothing. For the residents of Jackson Ward, where the Maggie Walker National Historic Site is located, they would think of all of those things and more. The 3 black-owned banks in Jackson Ward in the early 1900s were served as community landmarks. The bank executives would serve as community leaders, and those banks would do much more for the residents than just protect their money. I'm Ranger Mike with the Maggie Walker National Historic Site, and in this series of videos, we're going to discuss the 3 Black-owned banks in Jackson Ward during the early 1900s. The first bank we'll discuss is the True Reformers Bank. The Grand Fountain of the United Order of True Reformers was an organization founded by William Washington Brown. Originally a preacher from Alabama, he would try and join a temperance organization there called the Independent Order of the Good Templars.
And do you see those buildings right there behind them? Right, just behind that, guess what it is? A highway. And on the other side of that is the straight hoods. Now they just built this and they're trying to gentrify the area, you know what I'm saying? So now they're trying to kick black people out of the area. But it's more so buildings like this one all the way on the end where they're old, that's from like the 1800s. They don't have, you know, they don't do any kind of work on them or upkeep on them. But, you know, you can see they're doing construction right here. But this is a part of gentrification that's going on here in America. But, you know, Jackson Ward is the hood right now. But I just wanted to let y'all know, you know what I'm saying? But this is the history of it, though.
However, because he was African American, he was barred from joining that organization. So instead, he founded a segregated branch and began growing that organization. He would move between Alabama and Richmond growing that organization, but in 1880 would finally settle here in Jackson Ward. He would continue running the Grand Fountain of Virginia and traveling throughout the state, opening new branches and recruiting new members. But he set his sights higher. He knew that this organization could be something more than just a temperance organization. And so what he did is he transformed it into an insurance organization. He was the first to start an organization that would provide insurance through a black fraternal order in the United States. And so he would travel throughout Virginia and other states, providing insurance to African American communities where they otherwise might not have access to it. And he would serve as a leader and an icon for many people through his efforts of transforming that organization into something greater. As the insurance program for the True Reformers prospered, they expanded, opening several new departments, such as the Rosebud Department, which would serve as the department for children, teaching them values such as savings and thriftiness. They would expand
Yeah, this dude sounds so retarded and talk slow.
hotels and other businesses that they would operate throughout Jackson Ward, Virginia. But in 1888 would be their biggest venture yet. W.W. Brown and the leadership of the True Reformers would expand into new business opportunities. And the newest that they would expand into was banking. Because in 1888, they would open the first chartered black-owned bank. Not just here in Richmond, not just here in Virginia, but in the United States. And that bank would be a bank free of racial discrimination and would be available to anyone, not just organization members. And that bank would prosper. And as it prospered, the leadership decided that they needed to expand in terms of building. And what they would build is a 3-story True Reformers Hall, which was located right behind me here on 2nd Street in Jackson Ward. And that hall would not only house the bank, but would have an auditorium with 500 seats and would serve as a community landmark right here in Jackson Ward. The True Reformers Bank would demonstrate its prosperity to the citizens of Richmond during the financial panic of 1893. A financial panic that struck the nation, causing thousands of businesses and banks to go out of business. Here in Richmond, the True Reformers Bank was the only bank, black or white, that maintained full operations during the panic.
And by the way, remember when that story with Wilmington, how they had problems keeping their banks open, you know, and that was a part of their problem.
I having to close for any reason. W.W. Brown would continue to lead the True Reformers until 1897 when he passes away. And after that, the organization would continue to operate here in Richmond, but would use a board of directors, having many community leaders leading that organization. There are other organizations that would come after it, showing how an organization can be something so much more. But for one of those leaders on the board, he saw some problems. And he decided to separate from that organization. And so John Mitchell Jr., the owner and editor of the Richmond Planet, a newspaper here in Richmond, decided to separate and form his own bank, the Mechanics Savings Bank, which will be the bank in our next video.
All right, so yeah, I just want to show y'all some yo, what's up, bro? I just want to show y'all black people creating banks in the early 1900s, and it wasn't just Maggie Walker. She was the first woman to do it, and you know what I'm saying. And the fact that she didn't sit in her place, and she created the also she created the what was the St. Luke Emporium to give black women jobs and offer the goods to the community at a cheaper price. So we didn't just sit there doing what just on our hands and knees waiting for something to happen. We got up and did it. So Ben, you want to talk about that? Ben? Ben must have went away. And I'm sorry if it's boring, y'all, but you know, this is Black history. This is Black history stories. And like I said, I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and I'm gonna show the tell the last story or whatever. And if y'all don't want to come on and talk about nothing, it's cool. We definitely gonna be back tomorrow. This just with this purpose of this show anyway. It's just Black history stuff. But there's other interesting stories. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the other story. And I can't see what's going on in the chat right now or the back room. So just give me a second. Let me read the story. So I wanted to talk about, I talked about, you know what I'm saying, how we created Black cities in Wilmington. I showed you what we was doing here in Virginia. And also how these cities, like my city, wasn't just burned down. See, they used the Highway Act to build a highway right through. And some of those buildings, even from back then, which was, you know what I'm saying, like where people used to come, all the famous people from the early 1900s used to come down here, on the Black Circuit, when the Black Circuit was the thing. And those buildings are still there, just not being used, and not being used like they should. You know what I'm saying? But I also want to talk about a story of Black people fighting back, because I'm not sure how many of y'all heard about the Robert Charles Massacre in 1900. And a lot of y'all should get the book, Ida B. Wells, I think, The Red Record. And she really talks about this case, or one of her books talks about this case. I'm not sure which one. But anyway, so in New Orleans, Louisiana, the tension led to the Robert Charles Massacre in 1900. Robert Charles was a self-taught, well-educated Black man who followed the Black nationalist teachings of Henry M. Turner. Now, we talked about who Henry M. Turner was before. Henry preached about Negroes arming and defending themselves from the KKK and other racist institutions. Henry also preached that Black is God and encouraged others to see God in their own image instead of a white God, which belittled their humanity. And I don't judge them for their religious beliefs back then, because everybody was on that kind of Christian stuff back then. But, you know, and I don't judge nobody now, so just whatever. But Robert Charles also suggested that Black people return to Africa, particularly to Liberia. He argued that Negroes would never get justice in America. Robert also spoke out against lynchings, including the lynching of Samuel Thomas in 1899. Leading up to his murder, Samuel Thomas, aka Sam Hose, was already angry that he wasn't being paid for his work. After his request for time off to visit his sick mom was denied, Sam got into an argument with his boss's wife, and his boss name was Alfred Cranford. Cranford was fed up with Sam asking for his money and pulled a gun on him. In self-defense, Sam threw an axe and hit Cranford, who eventually died from his wounds. Sam tried to escape, but was hunted down by a mob. They accused Sam of raping Cranford's wife, Maddie, and their infant. The mob took Sam back to the Cranford home to lynch him. The crowd grew to nearly 2,000 as white residents came into town just to watch. They took Sam to an area nearby the old Troutman Field. The crowd cheered as they cut off his nose, both ears, his finger, his genitals. The mob fought over his body parts and the stake he was burned on. White residents walked down the street with large pieces of his flesh and bones in their hands. The crowd went through his ashes for hours after the lynching, looking for something they could take as a souvenir or sell. Before Sam died, they tied him to a tree and doused him with kerosene. They set him on fire and mutilated his body while he was still alive. One white woman who witnessed the lynching thanked God for what they did to Sam. When W.E. Du Bois went to the area, he said he saw Sam's knuckles being sold at the local grocery store. Ida B. Wells hired a detective to investigate the lynching and published a report. The detective concluded that Sam killed his boss in self-defense, and the false rape allegations incited the mob. Another black man named Lee Strickland was also implicated in Cranford's death, and he was lynched the same night. About 15 white people went to his home in the middle of the night and dragged him outside. When they tried to get him to confess, Lee said, "You can kill me if you wish, but I know nothing more to tell." He pronounced his innocence, but he was still lynched, and the mob cut off his ears and fingers to take them as souvenirs. They left notes on his chest that said, "We must protect our ladies, and beware all darkies, you will be treated the same way." And by the way, they didn't be like, "Yo, unless you're from here or unless you identify as this." They just said all darkies. Okay, but when a black man named Albert Sowell spoke out about the lynchings, he was killed as well. Albert said every Negro that was killed should be avenged, and I agree with him. So, but white feminists also, these white bitches, white feminists also spoke out on the Sam Ho's lynching. Now, you remember that white bitch I said earlier, Rebecca Vladimir Felton. She said the raping of Maddie Cranford was indefinitely more intolerable than the murder of her husband, and any white man would have happily dispatched the beast with no more concern than shooting down a mad dog, because the dog is more worthy of sympathy. So, no, of course, nobody was ever punished for the lynching of that young brother. But after Plessy versus Ferguson in New Orleans, people like Henry J. Hearsay used newspapers to criminalize black people and blame them for their issues. He published an article threatening to start a race war if Negroes listened to agitators in the North. He said, "A race war means extermination, then the Negro problem will be solved." So the tension was already at a boiling point when the Robert Charles incident unfolded. Now, this is the Robert Charles story. Now, one night, Robert Charles and his friend Leonard Pierce were approached by 3 cops while waiting for their girlfriends. They said, one of the cops said they were investigating 2 suspicious Negroes because they were in a white neighborhood. Robert and Leonard tried to explain the situation, but when Robert stood up, the cops claimed it was an aggressive move. One of the cops, Augusta Moore, grabbed Robert and beat him with the billy club. Robert pulled his gun in self-defense and shot at the cops. And our brother's a hero. Both Moore and Robert received non-fatal bullet wounds in the leg after the exchange. Robert got away, but the police went to his home at 3 a.m. But he was there waiting with a shotgun. When they tried to arrest him, Robert shot and killed 2 cops, including the police captain, and he escaped again. Later that day, a white mob started gathering and calling for Robert to be lynched. The fire captain and other volunteers set Robert's house on fire to force him out. Oh, no, my bad. I skipped the part. But the mob attacked the black community for several days. According to reports, 3 black people were killed and 6 more were hospitalized. Eventually, the mob received a tip on Robert's location. When the mob went to confront Robert, he opened fire and killed 2 more cops in self-defense. The police called in reinforcements and deputized citizens, but the standoff still lasted throughout the day. At least 5 people were killed and 13 more were wounded. The fire captain and other volunteers set the house on fire to force Robert out. When he tried to escape, he was shot and killed by a white medical school student named Charles Norret. The mob dragged Robert's body out of the house and continued to beat and shoot his corpse. But by the end, Robert shot 27 white people and killed 7, including 4 cops. After Robert's death, the mob continued to attack the black community and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that's the end of the story. So I just wanted to share that, Yo, what's going on? Time to work. Yo, Ben, are you there? Yeah, I don't know what happened to Ben, but yeah, I just wanted to share that story of the brother Robert Smith. You know what I'm saying? Here he was minding his own business with his friend when the police rolled up on him talking about he looked suspicious, and he pulled out his gun. They tried to beat him up, but he had a gun and he pulled it out and he defended himself. And before they could take him down, he ended up shooting 27 people and killed how many? He killed 11. He killed 7 people, including 4 cops. So, you know what I'm saying? People was doing this for a long time. All of these cycles keep going over and over and over. You know what I'm saying? I think Ben, but yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. You know what I'm saying? That's everything I wanted to share. If anybody wanted to come on, y'all could come on and talk about whatever you wanted to talk about. I just wanted to do a show about Black history stories that we may not know about, because there are a lot of stories out here and a lot of people who did a lot of great things. You know what I'm saying? So, and then of course the self-defense committees or whatever. But yeah, man, it's a lot of stories, a lot of interesting stuff. You know what I'm saying? I ain't mean to bore y'all, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, but I wanted to show y'all that we wasn't just sitting there doing nothing, that people was out here defending themselves, people was out here creating their own businesses, people was out here trying to assimilate, have people was out here being Pan-Africanist, people was out here debating about it. Even then, all the stuff that we doing now, we doing over and over. You know what I'm saying? So, I could tell y'all about the Plessy versus Ferguson case, but just to give somebody else a chance to come on here, I'll read one more quick one and then I'll get off of here if nobody want to come on. But this one, not like the other ones. Those are just stories about Wilmington that I wanted y'all to hear, and a story about a brother who shot back, killed I don't know how many cops, you know what I'm saying? But, we don't want to talk about our history, and I know people not interested in that history and us actually creating banks and doing stuff. And it's amazing to me how they did it then, but we can't seem to do it now. So, okay, before I get off of here then. All right, so, of course, Plessy versus Ferguson and all of that stuff. So, in Lake City, South Carolina, a black man named Fraser Baker was appointed as postmaster. Now, this is the story about what happened to him and how he and his family were lynched. At the time, most postmasters lived in the same building as the post office. One night, while Fraser and his family were sleeping, the mob set the post office on fire. They stood outside with guns to shoot anyone who tried to escape. Fraser and his wife Lavinia tried to put out the fire, but it was too late. When they tried to escape their home, the mob opened fire on them. Fraser was shot several times and killed. Their 3 oldest children were also shot and injured badly, but managed to escape. When Lavinia tried to escape with their infant daughter Julia, she got shot in the hand. Baby Julia was knocked out of her arms and killed instantly. After Lavinia fell to the ground, after Lavinia was shot in the leg, she fell to the ground and the mob ran away. Since Fraser Baker was the postmaster, his death sparked outrage across America. People like Ida B. Wells and George White, the only black man in Congress, called for his killers to be arrested. 13 white suspects were arrested and charged, but the jury was all white. Even the Republican, aka Democrat, prosecutor said Fraser being appointed as postmaster was a grievous error, but using lynch mob rule goes against the white civilization they claim to be defending and made them just as savage as Negroes. After 20 hours of deliberation, the jury was split and a mistrial was declared. No one was ever punished for the murder of the postmaster and his family. All right. And after Fraser's death, South Carolina passed laws to disenfranchise black voters. The North Carolina News and Courier newspaper published an article saying, "We can trust white men to do right by the inferior race, but we cannot trust the inferior race with power over the white man." All right, so it's a bunch of stuff like this, but yeah, man. Oh yeah, it's all good, Bakari. It's all good. I'm about to wrap it up anyway, though. I just wanted to come on because that was the purpose of the show, and I showed everything that I wanted to show. Yeah, we could have that other show later, you know what I'm saying? Because this is another video that I could show, and I know people will be more interested in that because they ain't really interested in Black history that's positive that we can learn from and build our own banks and be responsible for ourselves. But and I'll show that video. Hold on, matter of fact, let me try to find it real quick. Because I want to do a little experiment. So I'm going to share one last video before I get off here. And if y'all got anything to say on this topic, then we can still, because people are talking about the coon thing. But yeah, I don't know if y'all seen your girl Candace Owens get a wake-up call about the Super Bowl halftime show, and her fans got on her. So I want to see if y'all got a comment about this. I could come on.
Had some thoughts.
Let me play this.
Candace Owens had some thoughts about the halftime show, and apparently the thoughts led to her own audience members turning against her. Now, her view is very different from Charlie Kirk. She actually enjoyed the halftime show, writing the following: "This is an excellent Super Bowl halftime performance. Undeniable hip hop and rap R&B excellence." She forgot she allowed her real self to leak a little bit in her commentary on Twitter, and her fans were not about to allow it, okay? So they fought back. Here's a few examples. "Worst ever And like usual, the NFL has to push the diversity crap, but yet there's no diversity. Maybe a rock musician and a hip hop artist, each one doing a performance, then let the crowd decide who gets the biggest cheer. And then another person wrote, "It was disgusting. Our young children couldn't watch such vile crap." Okay,
what were they watching?
No, but it's
That's insane. They were all perfectly clothed. They couldn't be more clothed if they tried. I mean, were they like weirdly turned on by Snoop Dogg? They're like, oh, nice blue and yellow. You know, what outfit that he's wearing? Wow, sexual. What are you guys talking about? We don't even know what you're saying.
I'm sorry, listen. Melania Trump did numerous photo shoots, naked, posing as if she's a lesbian. Like, they pick and choose when they're offended by sexuality. We're consistent. Those photo shoots don't bother me. I don't think you should judge people based on that. Same with Dirty Dancing during the NFL halftime show. Who cares?
I want to see that.
Genius for cheers. That's not the point. It's not that part's not a competition. They're just doing a halftime show to entertain people. But in his mind, everything is racial, and white people are always going to beat black.
Point. Rock music is never sexual. It's
video he was in. Okay, let alone every lyric, let alone Ted Nugent. Exactly what they're going back 20.
For 1 second, and I'm playing a role. Oh no, I forgot. I allowed my true feelings about things to come out. And
For 1 second.
For 1 second, and I'm playing a role, and I got to get back to playing that role. So, in an effort to pander to her audience, she said, "Loved Luke Combs singing country music at halftime during the Thanksgiving Cowboys game."
She had to look that up.
I don't know who Luke Combs is. I also happen to love Dre, Mary J, and Kendrick Lamar tonight. I grew up loving both hip hop and country. Politics doesn't dictate who I am and what I like.
Oh yeah, you love country.
I like country music too. I like country music too.
Don't get me wrong. I know. I don't like black people. I do. Please.
No, wait a minute. Would it make me a coon for laughing with these white people at laughing at a black woman for getting checked for being a coon? So would that now make me a coon too? I don't know.
Begging you, white people are better. Country's definitely. I grew up watching, listening to country. That's why I Googled this thing and found the last time there was country on football, and it said it was Thursday Night Football, and so I put that in there. Get out of here, man. Nobody believes you. Even your side doesn't believe you. But look, when your whole job is to be a black person hating on other black people so that racist whites can get off, well, look, keep up. I mean, if you even say a black person is doing something good for 1 second, of course your fans are gonna hate you. Remember why you made all the money, Candace, and shut up and do your role as your audience demands, okay? Not us. They're the ones telling you, you better dance to the right tune. Yep. And right away she turns around, she said, I meant country. Wonderfully pathetic.
Yep, so she definitely is a pander bear, and I want to watch that bumper one more time.
I know, right? That was so
fun. Good. Let's go. That's kind of out of left field.
All right. So now, if y'all got an opinion about the Super Bowl show and the halftime show or in the Candace Owens thing, I want to hear y'all opinion. Now, I know y'all done watched the Super Bowl show 100 times, and you know what I'm saying? You did your Crip Rock, you know what I'm saying? Still DRE, you know what I'm saying? All of that, you know. I know you done got your popcorn, you done applauded Eminem for taking a knee, you know what I'm saying? You know, I know you, because, well, forget the whole boycott football stuff, you know, because we all for that. But, you know, even Candace Owens, she forgot for a second that she had to be cooning. And that's like, you know, one of my theories about her. You know what I'm saying? She knows what she's doing as far as cooning. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's doing that on purpose. I don't even think she believes the stuff that she says. She just has to say it to get a check. She don't have to. She does. And she slipped up for 1 second, and they got on her neck talking about, you know, this is a travesty. This is the worst thing I ever seen. And like, God knows the horrible kind of music they be listening to. But she took 1 second and forgot about it. And, you know, she got caught up and remembered the time she was black and, you know what I'm saying, was doing a Crip Walk herself and throwing up the West Side, you know. She forgot about that and the lane that she's supposed to be filling. So she had to be like, oh, I like country music too. But she should have picked the artist because country music was made up by black people. But now you have this dude, Snoop Dogg. You never saw a game, Raw? But now, like MG2 said, just 2-3 years ago, I think who was it? Rihanna said, "I'm not going to perform at the Super Bowl because of all of the racism I saw from the owners and because of George Floyd." And here we are, about 3 years later, and you got the quote unquote the black iconic Snoop Dogg over there taking a knee at the Super Bowl. And Dr. Dre, I mean, we can't even get into the whole Dr. Dre situation. And people just want to get on here. And also all the stuff people was talking about 50 Cent or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And that's another thing about 50 Cent, you know. And I'm curious to see about his show about Queen Nzinga or whatever. But, you know, they was going in on 50 Cent. But see, 50 Cent, and this is another video that I wanted to show y'all. And if y'all got to comment about it. And then after this, I'm going to wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time, and I'm going to show you one more video. Since we're talking about Black history, I want to show y'all a video about Black distribution and creating our own distribution and how it got messed up. And I want to hear your opinion on this, or your opinion on really I want your opinion on what I was talking about earlier, but if not, about Candace Owens and the Super Bowl, or this is what I'm about to show you. Hold on, I gotta find it real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna play y'all something real quick, and then I want to hear y'all opinion on it. If y'all want to come on and give y'all opinion on it, if not, then I'm gonna go ahead and get up off of here. But let me play this video.
Your show, it's beef every time. It's like it's a bunch of bullshit to stop your money. Fans got to choose what you know. What I mean, they probably like both of y'all, but y'all beefing now. They got to choose who they fucking with. So it fuck up the fan base, it fuck up the money. It got your neighborhood beefing with their neighborhood. So it's a lot of bullshit that come with this nigga having war words. You know what I mean? Like, all that shit, boy. Period. Just us when we was beefing with G Unit. You know what I mean? That main shit was about 50. You know what I mean? Because when Jay, Irv, and Suge was about to make the first Black distribution. Yeah. You know, they put the clamps on it, like, and it came from the 50 camp. So it was solidified that, you know what I mean, somebody was over there talking. So we went hard at 50, you know what I mean? And I seen the game, you know what I mean, at the Jada Kiss party, our release party. This one before he dropped. And I'm like, oh, this is the nigga. You know what I mean? This one he just had West Side Story out. It was popping. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, that's the nigga. Let me go to the table. Holler. I'm like, yo, you the nigga. That nigga take the West Coast to the next side. I said, we really ain't feeling your partner, though. You know, we heard some. He like, that's y'all business. That's on y'all. I'm like, cool, man. Do your thing, nigga. You and Dre gonna go to the top. I'll spin off. A month later, Game got a song, This and Me, called I Got a Million on it. Like, I just seen you at the club. We was coolin'. Right. Damn. You know how this shit go. Game is new in the unit. This is the West Coast, so they like, nigga, this your coast. You handle my lightweight. This, get on it. So boom, now I got a beef with the Game. You know what I mean? And then all the other shit that came with it. But we really was only after 50.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So let's talk about it. Well, let's talk about it. So you say when Suge, Jay, and Murder Inc. got together, they tried to start distribution, where they could distribute a black distribution. So what happened in 50's camp to prevent that? They snitched on the crowd. Like what exactly? How did that go down?
Man, you got to go over there and ask the boys. But they started getting niggas hit. You know what I mean? Period. Niggas record labels was getting hit by the feds. They hit Death Row. If you remember back in the day, you go past Wilshire, the whole shit boarded up.
On San Vicente, yeah.
So you go to Def Jam. They hit that motherfucker, tore it up to where they kicked Irv Gotti and them out the Def Jam building. They try to hit Jay Prince, you Teflon down, you can't fuck with him. You know what I mean? Period. So he the only one that bounced and didn't get phased by the shit. You know what I mean? But everybody else, you know what I mean? They tore their shit down. So it's like, because you're trying to do something that the other people are doing, you know what I mean? They don't want you to do it. So they're going to send the IRS. They're going to send the feds, you know what I mean? And it got to be a whistleblower. That whistleblower the shit.
Right.
He's mad that Herb is a part of that, and Ja Rule's a part of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can put a bigger bag for that.
Whistleblower.
For people listening,
that's too much power.
Yeah,
you got Jay Prince, you got Herb, you got fucking Suge all together. That's too much power against him.
Yeah.
Against what they got going. That can shut that shit down.
It's a hater move.
Everybody come to this.
It's a header move, but it makes sense from his perspective.
Right.
It makes sense from his
Well, you can't have your enemy be stronger than you.
Right.
And so
48 laws of power.
He always collateral damage in that. So
it makes sense from that angle, but we look at a big picture. It's the reason distribution is the biggest key when it comes to music. You can have a label all you want. Right. You can have a press. You can have your own. Distribution is where the money. That's what controls everything. And that move that those brothers were making to come together and control distribution, that would have been the biggest move in music history. Because the reason why so many black labels failed is because all it takes is one person to choke up. Today's streaming is different. Right. Back then, when it was printing presses and CDs and stuff, all it took was somebody to choke up the chain of distribution. It didn't matter what you have at your label.
Now, this brother said, that's a part of the game. You can't have your enemy stronger than you, while making sure that your real enemy is stronger than you. Because we got this mentality about, the black man is, I can't have my enemy be in a position to where he's doing this thing. These brothers was trying to create distribution, a black distribution company, because one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to music is who owns distribution. And again, this ain't trying to diss 50 or nothing like that, but he said, I cannot have my enemy stronger, so you are collateral damage in that. But not just them, we all are collateral damage in that, because that's a distribution agency that could have changed the game for black artists across America. Now, people can argue whether these three people are pro-black or were for black artists and all of this other stuff. That could be a whole thing. But we keep coming back to the same conversation that we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have this, we don't have that, because we see each other as the biggest enemies out here. I show you these, I try to talk about history, this history that is so many stories like this, because we still don't recognize who our real enemy is. The real enemy is not the people controlling both of you. You just said the enemy is this guy across from me. No different from when they used to make these bucks fight each other to the death to see who wins. Guess what? They got paid too. They made good money. When they went up on the minstrel shows, they made good money, but they had to come in the back door, and they had to leave as soon as they finished entertaining those white people. But he said, oh, I cannot have my enemy stronger than me. So what's the definition of an enemy then? Who is your enemy? We got to start defining some of this stuff. Is because my enemy, one of my enemies is us not having a black bank or something that we can control it, right? Not only just a black bank for savings to put your money in or to get a house loan from or a business loan from, but something to also help you learn how to get into stocks, to learn how finances work, to learn how to, or a department for budgeting your money or for retiring. But no, this black man is my bigger enemy than me creating this bank. So you know what? I'm going to put this bank on hold so I can make sure that this black man is not more powerful than me, because after all, that's my enemy. So you got a warped sense about who your enemy is. I guess because people don't want to define your enemy as somebody who you're scared to compete against. But they don't care. As long as you have to go through them to get distribution, or you have to go up the chain of command to get permission from somebody else. But, you know, we can't have other black people out here stronger than me. And you know why? Because black people use that energy on each other. And it's almost like we forgot what the word enemy means. Almost like we forgot what all these all-white Redeemer governments and the effect that they had. It's almost like we forgot what Maggie Walker and them was able to build in 1903 that we seem unable to do in 2022. I'm in the same city as her, and I don't see black-owned banks here. But she did it back then. But she didn't say, oh, I'm not going to build this bank because, or another black person didn't say, well, I'm going to make sure she's not building a bank so my enemy is not stronger than me. Or other black banks competing with her in Richmond, I didn't hear them saying, let me make sure she doesn't create a bank so I don't have to compete with her. But I hear that from us right now. Now, black distribution, especially for music, right? The one thing that we can all agree is culture. Our culture is rap music and basketball, right? That's what they tell us. But you don't even control that. So no, that is not our culture. Because we can't even make a distribution chain with 3 successful people in the industry. Because we're competing with each other. See, we look at competing at the bottom and then replace that with the word enemy, and then look at the real enemy and say, look, well, we just want to be a part of their system, because that's really what it is. You're going to have to start working with people that's against you. But you know what? I'm not standing in the way of you having your enemies. But my enemy is not having my own bank. Somebody else's rules, laws, regulations. Places like Wilmington use segregation to their advantage. See, Plessy versus Ferguson wasn't about black people trying to assimilate into the society. It was the train companies not wanting to create more train cars because it was about business. Black people wasn't begging to be a part of somebody else's system. Black people wasn't sitting there waiting to get murdered. They armed themselves. And now we live in a time where we can all individually arm ourselves. Because guess what? You don't know what's going on, Truth 884. Because you don't know what's going to happen next. So you need to make sure you arm yourself. And as an individual citizen, you can do that. Now, what you choose to do as an individual, meaning work in the group with other individuals who chose to arm themselves to protect yourselves as a committee, because in 1898, they knew they had to create committees to protect themselves. So what did they do? They formed the Citizens Protective League, where they armed themselves and made sure nobody came into their communities to harm them. Oh, and they also policed themselves. They governed themselves. They shot with themselves. So what's stopping you in 2022 from arming yourself, from protecting yourself, from creating a committee to make sure nobody comes into your neighborhood to harm them? See, it's one thing when we have a system that can punish other people. It's also one thing when you can have an institution like a bank to build a business or help build other businesses. And it's another thing to work with each other to circulate our dollars, to build our dollars up, and then come together and build the things that we need to build, like the schools and all of that. But we don't want to talk about Black history because we worried about Kendrick Lamar at the halftime show. We worried about Candace Owens enjoying the halftime show, letting it slip out. Because you know what? You can't let your enemies be over you. You can't let your enemies have more than you, have more power than you. So what do you define as your enemy? Who do you define as your enemy? But listen, man, I appreciate all of y'all for watching, man. I appreciate y'all for coming on. You know, I definitely just wanted to tell those quick stories, you know, and, you know, I wanted to see, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciate all of y'all for listening. And, yo, my brother Ben, I don't know what happened to my brother, but we're going to come back tomorrow. He said noon, so I'm going to set the show up. And then tomorrow is going to be a tech show. We're going to talk about Ben's platform, how we can get off of these platforms. Because I'm not just showing you this history just because. I'm showing you that even in more dire situations, our ancestors was able to do it. So it's no excuse for us not to be able to. And this brother Ben is trying to create a platform for us to be able to put this Jewish kike bitch out of business. All of these K words out of business. Because it starts with one step. Right? Maggie Walker didn't be like, oh, if I build a bank, they'll burn it down. Or, oh, well, I'm in a bad situation. Or all of this kind of stuff. No, they just realized that they had to build a bank, so they went out there and did it. And people supported it because they had no other choice. And we don't have no other choice. At the end of the day, we are all we got. So we could build these institutions right now. But man, yo, again, thank all of y'all for listening. I appreciate all of y'all. Raw, Truth 884, Bakari, Time to Work, Pelege, Rashid, Master Supremacy, Erica, Brandon. You know, I thank all of y'all for watching. And you know, I'll see y'all tomorrow, hopefully. And I know I'm not on all that beef stuff, and that stuff is more entertaining, but you know, it is what it is, man. I appreciate the people who really do want the information and you know, who doesn't need all of that drama for it. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate all of y'all. But as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.